The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, we are all here. Coming up on this week's edition of CRN, could a new tire provider be coming to Formula One? Maybe. You know those wildfires that are up in Canada causing a whole lot of smoke coming into even the United States? We need to close that border, by the way. How could those wildfires of Canada affect the Canadian Grand Prix that's coming up? We also got details on the Superstar Racing Experience schedule. That's right, we actually know all the details of the schedule. More penalties in the Cup Series. Well, I mean, it is another week after all. Big driver change in IndyCar. Middle of the year. Wow. Big week for Grant Enfinger. We'll talk about all aspects of that. Got a new crew chief for one of last week's winners. How could you be a part of the Le Mans Garage 56 entry that's going on this weekend? All that and more on this week's edition of the Championship Racing Network. Gets the green right after these words.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we are, and we got a whole heck of a lot to recap and a fairly busy schedule for this weekend, so let's jump right into it. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers. We're all in studio for the second week in a row. Wow, we're on a streak.
Yep.
From last week, where we already talked about race number 1 of the doubleheader weekend for Formula E in Jakarta, Indonesia, we're going to move on to the Craftsman Truck Series Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. Race number 2 in the Triple Truck Challenge, not going to be a sweep for any driver this year. Haven't had one yet. Why would this year be any different, right? Grant Enfinger was the beneficiary of a late race wreck between your leaders, Ty Majeski and Zane Smith. He ends up getting the win and the $50,000 bonus for winning. Enfinger beats out Christian Eckes, trailed by Stuart Fries and then Carson Hocevar. More on him later. Chase Purdy, Matt DiBenedetto, Ben Rhodes, Nick Sanchez, Jesse Love doing a fill-in role, and not bad, claiming a top 10.
Yep.
Jake Garcia fills out the top 10. No new winners. Enfinger now has 2 wins on the year. He's the new 1 seed in the playoffs. Zane Smith and Christian Eckes also with two wins each. Single-time winners, Corey Heim, Ben Rhodes, Carson Hocevar. So that means 6 are locked in. 4 that are in on points are led by Ty Majeski, then Matt Kraft and Stuart Fries and Matt DiBenedetto. DiBenedetto with a somewhat uncomfortable, slim 7-point lead over Tanner Gray for that last slot. So a lot can still change, although they're more than halfway through their regular season.
We got 4 races to go before the playoffs start.
Time's getting thin.
Yep.
Out to Portland for the Xfinity Series on the road course after being busted down from the Cup Series back to Xfinity. Cole Custer might have his footing again, even if it was only for 1 race. The race went into overtime. Custer, who won the pole, had to go to the back of the field for unapproved adjustments before the race. Blitzed through the pack. He was in the top 10 really for the majority of the race. Entering overtime, he was 4th, and he was in prime position because Justin Allgaier, he was leading, but Parker Kligerman forced him wide in turn 1 on the restart, and Allgaier ended up taking Sheldon Creed kind of with him. Kligerman is out of sorts, and Custer just shoots through. He's able to hold off ticked off and hard-charging Justin Allgaier to claim the win. Allgaier 2nd, then Sam Mayer, Josh Berry, Austin Hill, Myatt Snyder. Sheldon Creed ends up finishing 7th. Connor Mozak, I should say, Chandler Smith, and John Hunter Nemechek. 7 of the 12 playoff spots in Xfinity are spoken for. You got your 3-time winner in Austin Hill, 2-time winners John Hunter Nemechek, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, Chandler and Sammy Smith, and then Jeb Burton all in on points, or all in on wins, I should say. In on points are Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, Riley Erbst, and Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick holding a slim 14-point lead over Brandon Jones for the 12th and final playoff position. And again, time is running out there. I mean, after all, we're basically into the middle part of June, and, well, we only got to get to late August, effectively.
Yeah, they've only got Nashville, Mid-Ohio, Pocono.
You go to Michigan?
No. Nashville, Mid-Ohio, Pocono.
Let's see.
I can't remember
Watkins Glen is in there.
I can't remember the 4th race to save my stinking life.
Watkins Glen is in there somewhere, though. But anyway.
I don't think trucks are running Watkins Glen this time.
Oh, they might not be. Okay. Well, but Xfinity.
Xfinity is, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Getting into last Sunday, where Formula E led off a busy day in Jakarta. Race number 2 of their doubleheader weekend in Indonesia. It was a first. Maserati. They got their first ever win in the Formula E Series and their first season in it. Max Gunther was quickest in each and every practice, but he was only able to claim 3rd in race 1. Turned around, got the pole again for race number 2 and wouldn't be denied. Claimed the pole, got the win. First for Maserati in single-seat open-wheel racing competition since Juan Manuel Fangio claimed to win in Formula 1 for Maserati at Nürburgring back in 1957.
That's crazy.
Let's just call that a little wild.
Richmond.
Thank you. Jake Dennis, Mitch Evans, they were 2nd and 3rd, so they fill out your podium. Then you got Sasha Fenestrance, you got Norman Nato, Pascal Wehrlein, Antonio Felix da Costa, Eduardo Mortara, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Sebastian Buemi in the top 10. Pascal Wehrlein's your points leader, 134, only 1 up on Jake Dennis with 133. Then you got Nick Cassidy with 128. Mitch Evans holds 109, and with 97, it's John Eric Verne. Antonio Felix da Costa, Max Gunther with the win, jumps up to 7th. Sam Bird, Sebastian Buemi, Jake Hughes, who's got 46. That's the rest of your top 10. Team standings are as follows. Tag Heuer Porsche is really liking the fact that Mercedes is no longer in Formula E. They're leading the points, 212, but 190 for Envision. They're kind of closing in. Jaguar holds 171. Avalanche Andretti, a competitive 156. PS Penske, 139. Maserati with the win and having a pretty good weekend overall. They're up to 87. McLaren, 86. 52 for Nissan. 28 for the Neo F333 team. Mahindra has fallen on hard times. They're at only 27, but hey, they're not last. That belongs to ABT Cupra. They have a grand total of 7, which is more than Williams. We'll get back to that. Next to Spain, speaking of Formula One, Max Verstappen, and nobody surprised, your pole sitter, he was able to avoid lap 1 contact, ended up leading the whole way. So, yeah, kind of a whatever. Claiming his 5th win of the year, 3rd in a row in Spain. The Mercedes changes that happened in Monaco finally actually kind of showed up and paid dividends, though, in Spain. They claimed double podiums for the first time since 2021. Sir Lewis Hamilton, then George Russell, 2nd and 3rd. Sergio Perez in the 2nd Red Bull finishes 4th. Trailed by Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, Zhou Yu, and Pierre Gasly.
The high speed showed the changes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be their kind of track now.
Monaco wasn't going to show them.
No, not as tight
close.
as that was. Verstappen, obviously, still leading your field on points, 170 to 117 over his teammate, Sergio Perez. 99 for Fernando Alonso. Lewis Hamilton with the 2nd place. He's up to he's up to 4th, I should say, with 87. Then George Russell, his teammate, with 65. Rest of your top 10, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly. Gasly with a grand total of 15 points. 170 to 15. We call that a blowout. Speaking of blowouts, Red Bull is your Constructors' Cup champion in waiting. 287 points to Mercedes, which their double podium finish jumps them up into 2nd place in points with 152. That's right, 135 points back. Ouch. Aston Martin's in 3rd with 134, 100 for Ferrari. Alpine has 40, 17 McLaren. Haas F1 with 8, tied now with Alfa Romeo. We'll get back to that. AlphaTauri 2 and Williams 1. The thing is that next up really should have been the New England Nationals for the National Hot Rod Association, the NHRA, but yeah, weather said, no, you're not going to get it in. So we'll return to that here in a moment. Cup Series at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway took center stage then, and for all those who thought it was going to take more time for Kyle Busch to settle in after switching from Joe Gibbs Racing to Richard Childress Racing, yeah, you can sit down now because he's got his 3rd win of the year already. Did have to deal with several late race cautions to get it because brake rotors, something that we'll talk about during the news, bringing out a number of cautions, which, ouch. Lightning in an 8-mile radius stopped the race only a few laps after it got started. After a 2-hour delay, they got things rolling. The lights were starting to come on when things finally got done, and Kyle Busch crossed the finish line just ahead of Denny Hamlin to get his 3rd win of the year, and he got his win for Randall Burnett, his crew chief, for all intents and purposes in his hometown. He grew up not that far away from St. Louis, so congratulations to them. Busch, Hamlin, Joey Logano, your top 3, trailed by Kyle Larson, who I thought was going to win. Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez, William Byron, Michael McDowell, and Kevin Harvick fill out your top 10. William Byron remains your 1 seed with his 3 wins. Kyle Busch is 2nd, then 2-time winner Kyle Larson. Single-time winners include Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., so they're all locked into the playoffs. Those who were in on points, Kevin Harvick pretty comfortably in on points. Things start to tighten up after that. Ross Chastain's in there, Brad Keselowski. Then Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, not all that comfortable. Daniel Suarez in the 16th and final slot, really not comfortable because he is only 6 points over and above Alex Bowman for that final playoff position. This weekend's racing actually kind of began last night, but really it'll finish up tonight, so we'll hold off.
It starts at 10 a.m. today.
Yeah, I know. But this weekend's racing, for all intents and purposes, will start with the 24 Hours Le Mans. We don't really deal with a whole lot of the endurance racing, but we talked a whole heck of a lot about the 24 Hours of Daytona and being the 24 Hours of Le Mans and one of the most prestigious races in the world. It seems only proper that we would. It's on the Circuit de la Sarthe near the town of Le Mans in France. 38 turns. Remember these numbers when we get back to this later. 38 turns, 8.47 miles long on that road course that's carved out of a combination of a dedicated racetrack and public roadways. In the United States, you can see the race live on Motor Trend TV if you get it, which you might not. But the funny thing is, the last time that I checked, for as limited as Motor Trend tends to be when it comes to cable and satellite coverage, they've still got better ratings than CNN. Anyway, coverage actually began as we got started on this edition of the show, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. When they actually dropped the green flag, I'm not 100% certain.
10 a.m.
Okay. So they haven't dropped the green flag yet. A lot of pre-race stuff. Then we go out west to the Xfinity Series. They're going to Sonoma Raceway in wine country for the DoorDash 250 on the 12-turn, 1.990-mile-long version of the track. 38 turns, 8.47 miles to 12 turns, 1.990. One of these things is not like the other. Anyway, that one airs on Fox Sports 1 and PRN Radio, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. Remember, they're out west. The sun will be up for a while. So what's up with the NHRA? Well, they did not return on Monday. National Hot Rod Association officials looked at the weather and said, it ain't looking good. So instead of choosing to contest the finals from Epping, New Hampshire on Monday and waiting till Tuesday, or maybe they started to do it last night at Bristol Dragway. They'll finish it off later on tonight. Before then they begin the Thunder Valley Nationals, which is the scheduled race at Bristol Dragway.
I think they're doing something within the qualifications. Something within the qualifications that they're doing that is working the New England Nationals down.
Yeah.
While all the other Bristol Dragway, it's too early for me to have a headache today.
I know. It's kind of confusing, but hey, for tomorrow, it'll be, or tonight, I should say, it'll be on something of a delayed basis, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Central Time, or following the Xfinity Series coverage, whichever happens first. Sunday's racing, Cup Series is first. Sonoma Raceway, same layout as the Xfinity Series for the Toyota Save Mart 350. That'll be on the main network, Fox, their final race of the year, which we'll get back to in a minute, and PRN Radio, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. And then, once again, on a delayed basis, we go back to the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series with the finals of the Thunder Valley Nationals at Bristol Dragway. Fox Sports 1 will have that, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time, I think following USFL. Camping World Truck Series, Formula 1, Formula E. They're all off this weekend. So now that we've thoroughly confused you, because we're confused, mainly because of the NHRA schedule, we got plenty that we got to get to here. You check this out, and we're going to talk plenty about the Garage 56 entry here and what's going on in Le Mans with that and how you could actually take part in that. But you actually saw that they're running an interesting-looking steering wheel out of that car.
Yeah, it's more of a...
it seems more like a Formula 1 IndyCar.
It's a Formula 1 IndyCar style wheel.
Yeah, instead of a basic steering wheel that you would expect out of a NASCAR Cup Series car, for example. But yeah, so we might try and figure out how to do a screenshot of that in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you grab your camera and turn it around on your computer monitor or something to that effect. But either way, we'll get all that figured out. We're going to have a good time with it. We're going to have a good time because there's plenty to get to. Plus, we got CRN story time because that guy right there, if you missed the end of the show last week, he got the chance to get behind the wheel of a car for the first time in a few years. We'll talk about it later on in the show.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show with Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. Coming up, hour number 2 of the show, we're going to be joined by a member of the staff here of the flagship station, the logo of which you can see right behind me if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. And they're going to be out at a pretty cool place.
Yeah, out at East Aboga at Combat Park for an inventory reduction sale they're having today. And you can actually, can't believe I'm actually saying this, but you can actually go buy a tank.
There's a part of me that would really love to do that.
You can go, but you can go buy a tank. It's an inventory reduction sale. It begins at 9 a.m. today at Combat Park in East Aboga.
The sad thing is that's not street legal.
True.
Because in my daily job at a station in Birmingham, that'd be a lot of fun to pull up in the parking lot in a tank.
There are two individuals in particular at that station that I could think of right off the bat. If you pulled up in a tank, it would be, they would lose their mind.
You know it.
And you know which ones I'm talking about.
Oh, I do. But anyway, so yeah, that'll be hour number 2. We'll talk to Kim Stevens then. Combat Park, by the way, East Aboga, not all that far away from Talladega Super Speedway. So if you're looking for it on a map, you know where to kind of start.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look here. You know, this seems to be a weekly thing, and I can almost guarantee you we're going to have one coming out of this weekend at Sonoma. If we don't get a penalty, a massive Cup Series penalty after Sonoma, I'll be shocked. Anyway.
Yeah. At the rate this stuff is going, it's kind of getting
It's almost becoming cliche. So this time around, NASCAR hits up Legacy Motor Club and Eric Jones. NASCAR reports the team has modified the greenhouse on the 43 car in a way that is, well, let's just say outside of the template and therefore outside of the rules. Exactly what they did, I don't know because NASCAR doesn't state. Crew Chief Dave Ellens gets docked $75,000. He gets a 1-race suspension while both the team and the driver have been docked 60 championship points and, if they make it, 5 playoff points. Somewhere down the line, we got a picture of that 43 car. I don't know where it is. John's working on things behind the scenes, which I'm not digging on him. I'm just letting you know. Yeah, that's the car. That was the exact one that they drove. And somehow, I don't know how the greenhouse is out of template. I mean, it's not like it's 100% obvious, but that's why they have templates and laser measuring and all that kind of stuff that they do at the track.
Yeah.
Because visually, I don't see it.
I don't either.
All right.
I don't either.
At least I'm not the only one. Some better news for Legacy MC in the fact that a crew member that was injured on pit road at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway got treated and then released from a local hospital. The story is that Thomas Hatcher, who's the front tire changer on that 43 car, he was in the middle of a pit stop, ended up colliding with another crew member and fell basically kind of flat on his face. I'm not trying to make fun of it. I'm basically telling you what happened. He fell down and fell down hard. He got taken to the Infield Care Center. They ended up transporting him to St. Louis University Hospital, where they said on the ride over he was awake and alert. He got treated. Then he got released. Houston Stamper took over tire changing duties on that car for the remainder of the race. Here's the thing. Houston Stamper doesn't work for the 43 car. Houston Stamper doesn't even work for Legacy MC.
He works for Joe Gibbs.
Yeah. And he works on the 2311 car, not 23 by 1, of Tyler Reddick on the 45. But, you know, he crashed out during the race, so he was available. Thank you for coming over and filling in. And then as we went from the down to the up, we got to bring him back down. One more note here at Legacy, because it wrapped up with the news that they were going to need a replacement driver for this weekend because Noah Gragson, because of what we were talking about when it came to crashes due to brake rotors failing, is in the concussion protocol. So, to take his place, I find this an interesting choice. The Craftsman Truck Series is off, so Legacy MC has pulled Grant Enfinger in to drive the 42 Chevy Camaro. Now, Noah's in his rookie cup season. He sits 32nd in points, got a best finish of 12th in Atlanta. There you see right there Grant Enfinger sitting in his truck. That picture, by the way, on YouTube, courtesy of GrantEnfinger.com on CRN Live. I say it's an interesting choice because, number one, Xfinity's in town. They could have just pulled an Xfinity Series driver up to run, but instead They chose to get a Truck Series guy who, and no disrespect to Grant Enfinger, but he's never driven a Cup car.
Yeah, that's the kicker. The only time he's ever sat in a Cup car was in 2011. He tried to qualify for the Cup race at Homestead, Miami, and missed a show on a brand new upstart team. I was personally shocked that they didn't pull somebody, work with somebody like JRM and pull somebody, like
I don't know, super sub Josh Berry, anybody?
or somebody that's, I could say, arguably the most underrated road course racer in Xfinity right now.
Matt Nicholson.
I wish. Sam Mayer.
Yeah, that's true too. But they went with Grant. We'll see how it works.
With it being under the GMS banner, and GMS has no Xfinity team anymore. Thank you, Spencer Gallagher, because of that. So yeah, that was kind of surprising, but then again, it wasn't surprising.
It was out of left field.
Right.
And there's no doubt about that. I was not expecting that. When I heard that they were going to pull Noah Gragson out of the car, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're going to get an Xfinity driver. And then you kept going through the story, and you're like, Grant Enfinger? Okay.
Yeah. It was
Good luck, Grant.
It was like, huh?
Hope it goes well. You remember the Dale and Dale show way back when Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett were fighting for the win in the Daytona 500? Yep. Well, there was an Austin versus Austin show at Gateway, but this was not for a win. This was another one of those incidents, and this is going to become, I can see this coming now a mile away. We're going to get all upset when somebody ends up hooking another person, and it's going to be, you need to park him. Austin Cindric and Austin Dillon got together. Cindric got into the rear quarter of Dillon, turning him into the outside wall. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got involved in that kind of unwittingly as well. Dillon, after everything was said and done, got on the radio, claimed that it was intentional on Cindric's part, called on NASCAR to park him. Well, NASCAR didn't park Cindric, and after checking all the pertinent data, remember last week when we showed that SMT data? And that was what Denny Hamlin put up on his social media, and we went ahead and shared that too.
It is.
That was pretty plain and obvious.
It was.
Elton Sawyer, NASCAR's VP of competition, got on to SiriusXM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel early in the week and said that they saw all the pertinent data and all of the replays, and they couldn't find one iota of proof that would lead them to believe that it was intentional in any way on Austin Cindric's part. So not only did they not park him, they will not penalize Cindric or the two car for anything related to what they call a racing incident. I've seen numerous replays of this. Cindric, yeah, he was kind of coming down, but Austin Dillon looked like he was kind of coming up at the same time. It didn't look like anything more than a racing incident.
Cindric never turned his wheel. Actually, he turned away from Dillon when he was coming up.
Oops. So do us a favor, Austin Dillon and every other driver from now on, don't go yelling for a driver to be parked just because they got into you and you wrecked. Wait for the proof to find out if it actually happened intentionally.
I will, because I have no shame this morning.
This is gonna be a good day.
I'm just in one of them rare forms.
Sure.
So I send this message directly to the pilot of the number 3 Chevrolet Camaro.
Nice.
Grab the elastic strap that goes around your waist, pull your panties up, and drive the car.
Yeah. Suck it up, boys.
Put your big boy panties on and drive the car.
Suck it up, man.
Because you're getting your rear keister kicked by Kyle Busch right now so bad.
Oh, God, yeah.
And you can't even be in the same zip code as him right now. Grow up.
I'd have to look at the points, but there was a time when Austin Dillon was just inside the top 20, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I think he's pretty far outside the top 20 now. So
I'm investigating
all right.
now.
Well, you look that up. Let's get you the next picture here. We're over at 2311. Again, not 23 by 1. Racing. They're set to field the third car in the upcoming Indianapolis road course race in Austin in August. They have plucked former F1 driver and current World Endurance Championship racer Kamui Kobayashi to drive it. You can see the picture right there on CRN Live, courtesy of 2311 Racing themselves. This is going to be the second time that particular car has hit the track. Travis Pastrana took a turn in it at the Daytona 500 to begin the year, as it was at Daytona. As you can see right there, it'll sport the number 67 with Toyota Gazoo Racing, which is the team that Kamui actually drives for in World Endurance Cup.
And team principal for Toyota Gazoo as well.
Absolutely. So this is going to be the question. Kamui has very little, if any at all, stock car experience under his belt. He does have experience on the Indianapolis road course. Does that help?
Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, yeah.
What's your expectations for this car and that driver?
That car and that driver, I will not be the least little bit shocked. Oh, and to answer your question about Dylan DeBush.
Oh, yeah.
Bush, 7th. Dylan,
Locked in with 3 wins.
Dylan, 30th.
Oops.
With Kamui Kobayashi,
Top 20? Got to remember, we had all that beating banging at Coda that surprised some of those people who we thought were going to do pretty good.
You people may fall out of your chairs and throw your computer sideways, but I will not be the least little bit shocked to see top 10.
Ooh, okay. I mean, we know that they get good cars. There's no doubt there.
I won't be shocked. Here's why. Because with the road course, I'm going to say out of the Gen 7 era.
Sure.
Which is only now 2 years. Heck, I'll even go back 2 years of the last 2 years of the Gen 6 era.
Okay.
This is the most accomplished road racer in the best equipment coming to run a cup race yet.
There you have it. Speaking of road course racing, Rick Ware Racing has decided that since they're doing this whole situation where they're have this revolving door, so to speak, of the 15 car, mainly because Cody Ware got himself into some legal trouble, cost himself that ride. It's been on a race-by-race basis that we've learned who is going to drive. But what we do know is this. Andy Lally has been tapped by Rick Ware Racing to drive the remaining road course races. Lally's been inserted into the 15 car for the Chicago Street Race, Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, and the Roval. Is he in it for this weekend?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So, and also Sonoma. Lally's picture that you're about to see on CRN Live, courtesy of the fine folks over at Sporting News over there. So Andy Lally, we've seen him come in. We've seen him have, I'm going to say, varying success. A lot of it depends on the equipment. And what's the one thing that we ding Rick Ware Racing for?
Equipment.
Bingo.
There's a twist to the story, though.
By all means, show us or tell us about the twist. You know, it's radio. Get the picture?
Yeah. This pretty much tells me Jensen Button's going to drive the 51 at Chicago and Indy.
I could see that.
Because Jensen Button still had 2 more races to run because he was scheduled to run Coda, Chicago, the whatever, that's it. Chicago, it. And then Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So that pretty much tells me he's going to drive the 51, the Biohaven car.
Okay.
So are we about to see de facto 6 Stewart-Haas cars on the track?
Probably.
We essentially see 7 2311 cars at road races.
Sure, why not?
So,
I can see that.
Just saying.
Yep, I can see it. Speaking of that Chicago street course race, Ty Dillon going to get an interesting one-race sponsor that you're about to see on CRN Live for Aspire Motorsports number 77. He's got the sponsorship of the Chicago White Sox Major League Baseball team. It's a deal that's going to put the team as the primary sponsor of the car, along with a special fire suit for Dillon for the race. You get to see the fire suit there as well. I got to admit, I'm not a White Sox fan. I'm a Red Sox fan. I was born in Boston. What do you want? But that's a pretty sharp-looking car right there. As part of the deal, the car is going to be on display at Guaranteed Rate Field, which is a horrible name for a stadium. But it is the White Sox home stadium. It'll be there June 23rd and 24th. That's 1 week ahead of the Chicago Street Race. Again, you can see that car and the suit on CRN Live, courtesy of jski.com. Now, do remember, I talked about the fact that this is radio. Get the picture? You can if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. Just noting.
Yeah. Instead of you can put it on the board, as the old White Sox announcers used to say, you can put it on the lift gate.
Old
Yes.
Hawk Harrelson. Good
Yep.
old Ken Hawk Harrelson.
Yep.
Speaking of former Red Sox. NASCAR continuing to tinker with the Gen 7 racer in order to try and make it safer. Work on the brake rotors, boys. They made the rear assembly a bit more crash absorbent during the offseason. We detailed that. They've now introduced a new measure that's meant to increase the energy absorption from a frontal crash better. It'll be reintroduced when they return to Atlanta Motor Speedway. Also new is going to be a new steel plate along the right side door bars that extends to the rear of the greenhouse in order to further protect the drivers in the case of a T-bone crash. That move, they said, was made due to the very scary crash between Kyle Larson and Ryan Preece that happened at our home track of Talladega. So they're working on trying to get the car safer.
You sure it wasn't Ryan Newman in the crash?
I always heard Ryan Preece.
I'm making a joke there.
Oh, well, yeah, that was another situation entirely.
I'm making a joke there from the cohort that was to your left.
Oh.
You sure it wasn't Ryan Newman?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Cabo Wabo.
Roll Tide, baby.
Roll Tide, baby. Anyway, I remember this wreck, and it was indeed a scary situation.
That David Lee Roth started.
Yeah, of course. Here's my question. You saw it. Of course, you saw the 2020, you saw the first year version of the Gen 7 car. And you said it's built like a tank.
Of course.
Again, changed the rear assembly, made it a little more crash absorbent. They are now changing the front side of it. But now you're going to put a steel plate, and I don't know how big, I don't know how wide, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Quarter inch.
So it's only a quarter inch tall?
No, quarter inch thick.
Quarter inch thick. How tall is it?
Goes through the whole door.
Okay.
Length of the whole door.
Length of the whole door, but again.
Width of the whole door. Same way as the passenger side.
So doesn't that effectively stiffen the car up?
Yes and no.
Okay. It's safety
stiffens-
time here on
it's-
CRN, boys and girls.
It stiffens the right side of the car up
Yeah,
from a flex in, flex out point, if you follow what I'm saying.
I do.
Same way as the left side of the car. It's basically all it is an intrusion plate,
Okay.
which I have no problems with intrusion plates. Never have, never will.
Okay.
But yes, it does make it stiffer. But then again, it makes it, like I said, it makes it stiffer from the in-out standpoint. You can live with, depending on which side. Let me back up and say that. You can live with flex in, flex out on the right-hand side
Right.
to a point.
And if you want to look at it from another angle, right side is what we're talking about when we say
Passenger.
what you would think is passenger side of your
Passenger
car.
side, yeah. Left side, flex in, flex out's a big no-no. Because the first thing that is on the left side after the intrusion plate is your seat with your pilot sitting in it.
Mm.
Now, with what they did with the front of the car, I watched the slow motion, slow frame video at a whopping 35 miles an hour that they showed it that the car hit at.
Yeah.
Big difference between 35 and 190.
Yeah, which is what Larson and Preece were doing, not Newman.
Yeah, Preece seemed like he was doing 205 when he hit him. But them taking out the bars on the front that they took off, the V, they call them the V bars.
Yeah.
Taking those bars out, it gave an astronomical amount of flex to the front end to dissipate energy.
Mm-hmm.
You could see that. So backing up with them taking these V bars out of the front, and then last year taking those V bars out of the rear clip, that tells you right there you had too many bars in too many places to make the car too stiff.
Yeah. And it led to drivers getting concussion.
Getting hurt. Yeah, because your driver's not supposed to be the first place of energy dissipation inside the car. The energy is supposed to dissipate through the car, not through the driver.
Right.
All right? Like I said, the flex is so much better now because actually you can see in that video that when you have a front clip impact, let's call it that, the engine actually moves and flexes with the clip instead of staying deadlocked going like, I'm not moving.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing basically is that when they adjusted the energy absorption ability of the front to match the back, they needed to do something to help protect the driver a little more, so they added that steel plate on the right side.
From a right side impact, yes.
Okay. I want to talk about this as well, and we may end up taking this over to the next side. But we talked about the brake rotor failure, no less than 4. A lot of people had a lot of theories as to why we saw 4 different drivers effectively explode their brake rotors. Among them, Noah Gragson, who we noted earlier, is sitting out this weekend in concussion protocol because he had a very hard hit after that brake rotor exploded and he slammed into the wall. But the first driver to experience it was Carson Hocevar. Tyler Reddick, as we noted, he was out because his crew driver was able to actually go over and help out Legacy MC and changing the tire. And late in the race, Bubba Wallace experienced that as well, and he was running top 10 when his rotor blew out and all of them were taken out of the race. So again, you get a whole lot of theories here as to why these brake rotors failed. And these things, they're not like the ones that we had on the Gen 6 car. Remember, the Gen 6 car had 15-inch wheels, much smaller discs, much smaller rotors. These things are serving platters behind those 18-inch wheels. They're huge.
They are.
One would think that they could dissipate the heat a lot better and therefore be able to survive something like this. But then again, it's not like Worldwide Tech Raceway is the shortest track on the circuit, so maybe that's part of it. We'll get to it when we come back. We got to take this break. We've set the table. We'll talk to the resident driver and see what his opinion is as to potentially why in the world we saw no less than 4 different cars from 4 different teams have their brake rotors explode right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
We are back. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, and talking Carson, host of our Tyler Reddick, Noah Gragson, who got the worst of it, Bubba Wallace, all four of them. Think about this now. We're talking about four different teams, effectively, that saw their cars have brake rotor blowouts during the course of that race. And of course, when that happens, immediately it shoves the car into the wall because you lose all control. Because not only does it blow out the rotor, it affects the handling of the car. Let's just put it that way. In a very bad way.
It does.
So why? We've been to Martinsville. We've been to Richmond. We've been to any number of short tracks, including Bristol on dirt. Why is this suddenly coming about at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway? What's the difference?
Because the straightaways at Gateway are so much longer than the straightaways you see at Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. I even say Phoenix.
So is this something that we might see again, say, at New Hampshire?
It's I'm not going to say New Hampshire because you got the diameter the diameter of the corners is so much wider at New Hampshire versus the ones at Gateway because you got to get on the brakes so much harder.
Okay.
The straightaways are so much longer. By the time the brakes get the heat in them to get the car to turn, they have the opportunity to cool back off. Therefore, and then when they get hot again, causing warping, which therefore will cause stress cracks, which therefore will cause brakes.
All right.
It's a heating versus cooling issue.
So they just couldn't keep the heat in the brakes to allow that to stay.
You can't keep the heat in the brakes long enough there because you got to get on the brakes so hard. Secondly, it's a result, too, of running steel rotors versus carbon rotors.
Which is something that I don't know whether NASCAR is going to go to anytime soon or not.
Got it.
Probably not. Let's flip to the Xfinity Series here, where this weekend marks the first time. Who would have thought this? The first time ever for the Xfinity Series at Sonoma Raceway. Huh. As such, Moonlighters, several of them. They want a bit more time on the track to allow the Xfinity teams also to save a little bit of money. Because think about this. Using a Cup driver, and in several cases, these Xfinity teams also use the Cup crew members to pit the cars, not Xfinity-specific crew members. It saves you money from having to haul all of them all the way out to California and then haul them all the way back to North Carolina. So no less than 7 full-time Cup Series drivers are racing in the Xfinity Series later today. They are in alphabetical order. AJ Allmendinger, Eric Almirola, Ross Chastain, Ty Dillon, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Larson, and Daniel Suarez. And it should be noted that in the ARCA Menards West Series, Ryan Preece moonlit, and by the way, won, to nobody's shock.
Yep.
Welcome to moonlighting, boys and girls.
Yep.
Speaking of Stewart Haas Racing, former Cup Series championship winning crew chief Greg Zipadelli going to be back calling the shots this weekend for Cole Custer. Seems that the regular crew chief of the 00 Ford Mustang, Jonathan Toney, not feeling too well, according to Fox Sports reporter Bob Pockris. So he didn't make the trip out to Sonoma. Maybe a bit too much partying after they got the first win of the
very high
2023 season last weekend.
Very high.
Either way, we hope he gets better. When we're trying to make light of what could be a serious situation, we hope he gets to feeling better and returns soon. Jesse Iwuji Motorsports was full-time last year, but this year, largely been absent. We don't really know what the difference is between last year and this year. What we do know is this. They only got into the Daytona season opener. They failed to qualify for the Talladega race. They're going to try again. They're going to try to be part of the Chicago street course race. But Iwuji is not going to be the guy behind the wheel of the 34 Chevrolet himself. Instead, they're going to put that kid right there. That kid's name that you see on CRN Live on YouTube is, by the way, courtesy of EuroNASCAR.com. His name is Andre Castro. He's a veteran of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. Graduated from the University of Chicago College, so that adds to his connection as to why he's ending up in that particular car. Thing about it is this is a pretty young kid. He's not really what I would say tearing up the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. He hasn't got a win that I can tell.
Right.
He's got a couple of top 10s in there.
Mm-hmm.
What's led Jesse Iwuji Motorsports to put him in the car as opposed to somebody who's a little bit more accomplished in, say, even Truck Series competition, if not Xfinity Series competition, and has a lot more road course racing under their belt?
Phenomenal question because I don't even know what Jesse Iwuji is thinking.
I'm not really all that 100% certain myself. Again,
Not sure.
this was a full-time team last year when he partnered up with Emmitt Smith, former Dallas Cowboy and now NFL or Pro Football Hall of Famer. Might as well call it the NFL Hall of Fame because that's pretty much all that's in there. What's changed between last year and this year? Excuse me, I don't really know. Why they've become this part-time team after having run full-time all last year. It's such a strange deal, and this seems another one of those odd connections. I could be wrong. It could be that Andre Castro comes in and he actually surprises the living daylights out of us. And I would be more than happy to say mea culpa to Jesse Iwuji Motorsports and to Andre Castro. But at this point in time, this is a huge question mark to me.
Really good question, for sure.
Huge question mark. By the way, this is the final weekend for NASCAR's Cup and Xfinity Series on Fox Sports under the current NASCAR television deals. Fox, of course, gets the first half of the season, which includes the Daytona 500, Coca-Cola 600 All-Star race. NBC gets the playoffs. But it is only for Cup and Xfinity. Truck Series coverage going to remain on Fox Sports. Most of those races, not all necessarily, but most of those races will be on Fox Sports 1. They might find an occasional Fox network. They've done it before with Talladega. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they have.
Could happen again. Speaking of the Truck Series, and speaking of replacement drivers, ARCA Menard Series driver Christian Rose, who you're going to see in a moment on CRN Live on YouTube, going to get a chance to test himself out in the Craftsman Truck Series at Richmond. Rose is a former college baseball player at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, turned to racing during college. He's been tapped by AM Racing. He's going to drive the number 22 Ford F-150 for their July 29th racing. He'll have his ARCA crew chief Ryan Long along with him, along with Secure Testing Services, LLC, to sponsor that run at Richmond. And according to what we're hearing, there could be more than just the run at Richmond before the end of 2023 for Rose. Long and the sponsor, by the way, as well. But that'll be a subject for later on, the team says. Rose is currently part-time. Let me repeat that. Rose is currently part-time in the ARCA Menard Series. He's got 13 starts over the past 2 years. But he is fresh off a career-best 8th-place finish at Charlotte. Thank you to ARCARacing.com for the picture that was on CRN Live on YouTube. So, of all the drivers that AM Racing could have pulled, they pulled a driver who's got 13 ARCA Menard Series races under his belt?
I don't know. I don't know. This is to me, this is a money deal wrote on it.
It's got to be. It's got to be a paycheck deal.
Got to be.
I mean,
His ARCA Menard Series car sponsored by West Virginia Tourism.
So it's not Secure Testing Services, LLC.
No. It's got to be something because I don't.
It's either that or their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh choices are tied up elsewhere.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility,
and
too.
the AM22 truck isn't the fastest bullet in the chamber.
No, not really.
Yeah, it's not. So,
if you've been watching us on CRN Live on YouTube, you may have noticed this in the comments section. And you also might have noted this if you happen to watch the victory celebration interview at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. Grant Enfinger celebrating the win, not only got the win, but had another reason to celebrate. He announced that he and his wife, Michelle, are expecting their second child. So congratulations. Don't know exactly when, though. Can't find an expectation date.
Good for
but
them.
hey, good for them. Young's Motorsports has made a change on the O2 Chevrolet. We talked about Chris Wright being out. He recently announced he was leaving the team. They mutually agreed to part ways. They've announced their new driver. His name, Chris Hacker. Hacker becomes the first NASCAR driver known to have a brachial plexus birth injury. It occurs when a baby's neck is stretched during birth, and it damages the nerve network controlling the muscles down each arm. Over his life, Hacker has undergone 3 different major surgeries, including tendon transfers and nerve grafting. And while not considered to have normal, what you and I might call normal mobility, he's got most of his mobility back. His driving style is a little bit different. He puts his left arm resting on the steering wheel and actually turns it with his right hand. He was, I should say, because he actually got his first race in last weekend at Worldwide Tech Raceway Gateway. He was sponsored by the law firm Morgan & Morgan. He finished 27th. Thanks to jski.com for that picture on CRN Live on YouTube.
One thing to say about him.
Yeah.
He needs to find a barber.
Haircut time, dude. But yeah, I mean, for Chris Hacker, this is a dream shot, man.
Don't mess it up.
No pressure.
And he did cut his hair, John. He looks.
Oh, that's
like,
well, it is an
I
old
don't
picture.
know what he looks like now.
Bald.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best way you can call it. But hey, on the bright side, we got Le Mans is rolling.
All right. We'll keep an eye on it. Again, it's early and it's 24 hours. So,
8-mile
I mean,
pace lap.
you know, as they say, you can't win the race in the first. You can lose the race on the first lap, but you can't win it. We'll keep an eye on
I
it.
can't tell you how many times I heard that in the radio last week in the car. You can't win it on the first lap, but you can sure lose it on the first lap.
Speaking of running at Le Mans, you remember the film Ford versus Ferrari? You might remember when the movie took the series to Daytona, which is actually Auto Club Speedway, but that's not the point.
You mean the 24 hours of Auto Club?
Right. This was kind of a do or die situation for, in the movie, Shelby American to be able to choose their own driver. Turns out Ford brought in a ringer crew for their other Ford GT40 runs, and it led to the realization, and using a term that I can't use on the air because we're a family radio station, and, well, I don't want to get fired, nor do I want to get fined by the FCC, but it led to the realization that it was a NASCAR pit crew that Ford had brought in for their regular other factory-backed teams, not the Shelby American team. Why are we bringing this up? Well, because the NASCAR, Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, Goodyear, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Coca-Cola, and Tang soft drink sponsored Garage 56 Le Mans entry this year.
Don't forget Under Armour. Don't forget Ally Financial. Napa,
So are you
Hooters,
like
and
the
everything
driver
else.
of the car? You got to list all the sponsors. What gives?
Well, you know, it's almost as fast as the Xfinity. Never mind.
Stop. Stop. Well, we just had a fast day out there today. You know, we was almost as fast as Xfinity 10G Internet. I'm about sick of hearing that. Every time they say it, they get a $5,000 bonus.
Exactly. Which is why they say it. I mean, they say it because they every time they say it, they get a check. I didn't get a check. I was just having a little bit of a good time. Anyway, NASCAR, Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, and Goodyear all team up on this Garage 56 Le Mans entry. So what did they do? Well, to pit the car, they brought in a Hendrick Motorsports NASCAR trained pit crew. They waltzed in and opened up everybody's eyes when they actually claimed the Pit Stop Challenge Championship, despite being the only team using a manual jack. That's right. They were the only ones that used a manual jack, but the 5-person crew changed all 4 Goodyear tires in 10.364 seconds. That was faster than the Northwest AMR crew by slim, but still 12 100ths of a second in the GTE class, which Garage 56 is not technically in that class. They kind of get lumped in there, though, because that's the closest approximation, according to the fine folks at Le Mans. Their time was good enough for top 5 amongst all pit crews of all divisions. That's the pit crew that you see right there on CRN Live, thanks to NASCAR.com.
Seeing that, wait a minute, is that, looks like I see Kenyatta Houston in there.
It may be. I don't know. I didn't get the names of all the people that are on.
You remember, a lot of people may do it. You guys remember that meme that got created when Ricky Stenhouse, like he wrecked everybody in the top 5 at Daytona that year to try to win the race? And it had the meme that Stenhouse's car was so much bigger than everybody else's. And everybody's car looked like it was that big.
Yeah.
Well, they just showed a car shot right here from, they just showed a car shot
I think I know which one you're talking about.
of where the Garage 56 car is lined up behind the LMSC cars and the GT, LMPT, ABCDEFG cars.
Right.
It looks like that meme. That car is so much bigger than everybody else's car.
It practically towers over all the other cars, but it is quick. How quick? Well, they had practices earlier this week, and the NASCAR Garage 56 entry has a little bit of promise. Now, LMP1 is your fastest division, like it was down at Daytona for the 24 Hours of Daytona. They got the fastest times. The Porsche 963 from Porsche Penske Motorsport ran a lap. Let me remind you how big this track is, going back to when I described this race. 38 turns, 8.5 plus miles long. The Porsche Penske 963 turned that lap in 3 minutes, 28.878 seconds.
Oof.
Yikes. LMP2, second fastest division, about 8 seconds slower, so 3 minutes, 36, give or take, 37 seconds was about the fast time. And again, while technically in a category by themselves, the Garage 56 entry, as with the Pit Crew Challenge, was kind of thrown into the GTE AM category. Yeah, beat all of the GTE AM division cars in practice with Mike Rockenfeller, who's probably I'm not going to say probably, easily the most accomplished sports car road racer of the three drivers. Jenson Button, who does have road course racing under his belt, but it's in Formula One, and Jimmy Johnson.
James.
Yeah. Rockenfeller posted the fastest time for the Garage 56 entry, ran the 8+ mile long course in 3 minutes 51.9 seconds. So he was able to be within 25 seconds of the fastest time by the LMP1. About 2 seconds quicker than the fastest GTE car. That was Kessel Racing's Ferrari 488 that set that time. The gap was similar amongst all practice sessions during the week. So, yeah, the Garage 56 entry is not a slow taxi cab by any stretch of the imagination. This thing has speed. It'll be interesting to watch. Does it have endurance? Because that's the question. We know these things can go 500, 600 miles. Can it go 2 turns around the clock?
We're about to find out because the rag's about to fall.
All right. Hurley Haywood, by the way. That's a name that sounds familiar to racing fans. It should. He's been all over the racing world. He's the one driving the pace car.
Yeah.
At least to lead him to green. One more note here before we take the break here for all those who want to know a little bit more about the Garage 56 entry and how it came to be. NASCAR Productions is on the spot. They're working on a documentary slated to head to Amazon Prime. Obviously, the race is this weekend. The documentary is not complete. There isn't a planned release date on it yet, but the thought is that the NASCAR could put together a streaming package in the new broadcast rights deal. So the fact that they're going to put this documentary on Amazon Prime does seem a little more than just a coincidence. We'll have to see, and as soon as we find out when this documentary will come available and drop so you can see it, we'll let you know right here on CRN. There's also one more aspect to this whole Garage 56 thing, but we're going to get to that in hour number 2, and we're also going to check in with our flagship radio station host, who's on location. We'll talk about it next on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Things are green over in Le Mans. They've gotten the race underway, and as quickly as they went green, they went yellow. Okay. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers. We're also joined by a host from our flagship station, 95.1 The Mountain. Kim Stevens gets the chance to go to East Aboga. And please tell me at some point in time this morning you're going to drive a tank, Kim.
I'm jealous.
That is my plan. Yes. Come on up here to East Aboga. You can come up here. They're having their inventory reduction auction starting right now, started at 9 o'clock. You have a chance to bid on tanks, Humvees, rock walls, ammo cans, motorskate, trucks, trailers, furniture. There is so much going on up here right now. So come on up here to Combat Park, 6755 Curry Station Road, to take a look at all this inventory that is available to you to bid on today. And plus, all proceeds from this auction goes back to help the Wounded Warrior of Alabama Project, the nonprofit organization up here that Combat Park heads up. So get on up here, 6755 Curry Station Road, and come and see if you are the winner to own a tank. Everybody wants to own a tank.
Sure.
I still wish they'd let me shoot one. So, so come on up here, everybody. Come see us today. We are having such a great time. Everything's just now getting started.
Very cool. Looking forward to talking to you more about that very cool auction situation there as well, and a great cause. So Kim Stevens, we'll check in with her again here in just a little bit as we get back onto things. One more note when it comes to the Garage 56. This is actually a way you can take part in it as well. With that Chevy Camaro, at least as we know it now, it's on the chopping block at GM. It's kind of like Dodge with the Challenger. They're making special editions before they stop production of the Chevrolet Camaro. They're making a Garage 56 special edition, which you're going to get a chance to take a quick look at here on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Racer.com. This car is going to sport some special Garage 56 badging. It's going to be on the fenders, the floor mats, the steering wheel. It will include, at the buyer's discretion, a NASCAR windshield header, white Goodyear arch decals as well. Powertrain's pretty much off-the-shelf Camaro engines and transmissions. Pricing wasn't revealed for that, but I like the look of the car. Got the kind of the American flag going over the hood insert right there,
Right,
and over the roof as well. You know, and I like Camaros. I can't get my wife to let me to buy one, and I'm getting a little bit too old to crawl down into one and climb up back out of it.
I was just about to add that.
But it doesn't mean that I can't look at it and go, I'd like to have one. It's a good-looking car.
It is sharp.
Yeah.
The color scheme looks really good.
It does. It does. Other than Le Mans, NASCAR really hasn't ventured much out of the United States. Certainly not in quite some time. The last time I really remember them going outside of the United States probably was Japan, notably.
Cup, yeah. Yeah, definitely for Cup.
Yeah. Well,
I thought the only time they've done it is either Canada or Mexico.
might be changing soon. According to a report in the Sports Business Journal, the paper is reporting that NASCAR is in talks to return to the home of Canadian Grand Prix for Formula One circuit Gilles Villeneuve. NASCAR's Xfinity Series did race there from 2007 to 2012, but the report states that now there are talks involving bringing not only Xfinity but the Cup Series to America's hat. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell noted that NASCAR is willing to shake up the schedule for not only Cup but Xfinity and trucks, and is thinking about holding races not only in Canada but in Mexico, and maybe start to take it a little bit further outside of the United States. Something we've talked about IndyCar ought to do on a more regular basis as well. NASCAR President Steve Phelps was quoted at the 2022 CAA World Congress of Sports as saying, quote, "Our 2024 schedule probably will be the most aggressive we've ever had in terms of continued variation with new markets and tracks, but it is notable that neither NASCAR nor the city of Montreal, the city owns Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, are commenting officially on that report." What
Call it time
to
on the
say
play
about
on
it,
this one.
sir?
Calling time on this one right here.
Well, he's not throwing a penalty, so I'll give him that.
I haven't thrown a penalty flag yet. Even though my hand was on the penalty flag, I ain't throwed it yet. What's the one thing that we've heard about so much lately of owners and driver owners and everybody fussing and complaining about?
Travel costs.
Costs.
I get where you're going with that. I understand.
This is not logical to truck or Xfinity. This will be the way costs are now. The last time they ran out of the country, 2007 to 2012.
Right.
That's 11 years ago.
Sure.
All right.
It was a lot cheaper to do it then.
And considerably cheaper. Considerably.
I'll say this, and no disrespect to Mexico, but really, truth be told, what's the closest facility that they could run in Mexico? It's Mexico City. Probably, right?
Yeah, and then you got to have the feds escort your haulers through the Mexican terrain so you don't get hijacked by drug cartels. Give me a break.
Okay. Montreal is really, for all intents and purposes, just across the border from the United States. We go to Watkins Glen, we go to New Hampshire, we go to Michigan. We could make Montreal work. Mexico's a little bit more difficult because, again, you got to deal with the travel cost and you got to deal with the fact that you're going to need a police escort all the way from the Texas-Mexico border to Mexico City, and they're going to have airtight security around the clock while they're there. Not really looking forward to that option.
Leave Mexico out of it. Leave Mexico out of it.
Try
Because
Canada first and see if it works.
There is a
Or blame Canada first.
there's a really good short track in Canada called Jukasa Motor Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a great fit instead of me sending. Let me say it this way. How do you think Steve West would feel if he's sending, let's just say, a $3 million total worth of equipment?
Ouch.
That's rig, race equipment, and cars,
Yeah, and my personnel.
and the personnel through the Mexican countryside, and you got to get through the Mexican countryside with a police escort.
I'm not really
And he's
looking
sending
forward to that.
he's sending my vehicle to Mexico to drive.
I'm not really looking forward to that idea.
Exactly. I would rather just run right up I-65, then go right across to wherever to Detroit, hit Lake Erie, jump right across, run across that little gate that says "Welcome to Canada," and you be in Montreal. Easier run.
Yeah. I'd be much more willing to send my cars to Canada than Mexico at this point in time.
Thank you.
On to the Superstar Racing Experience. We haven't talked a whole lot about them here lately, but the official SRX Season 3 schedule is out. And I say official because we knew what the tracks were before. Now we know times and everything. It's all out there, all on the table. As we noted it before, the series moves from CBS to ESPN this season. This moves them off of Saturday nights and on to Thursday nights, which allowed ESPN to revive the old Thursday Night Thunder series from the 1980s. You can see the official slate of all the races and television times on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy the SRX Series Twitter page. All 6 races in order, beginning at Stafford Speedway in Connecticut on July 13th. It'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central as a start. From there, Thunder Road in Vermont, Virginia's Motor Mile, Berlin in Michigan, Ohio's Eldora. They'll finish up at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis 6 weeks after they begin. All the races, again, air on Thursday on ESPN, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central start time. If you are planning to go see one live, I hope you got your tickets because 2 of those are already sold out. Stafford and Berlin can't get tickets. There are tickets available at the other 4 tracks, but they're going quick, and there ain't many of them left. So if you're going to want to go to one of those other 4, again, Stafford, Berlin, sold. You can try for Thunder Road, you can try for Motor Mile, you can try for Eldora or Lucas Oil, but get your tickets fast because they are selling very quickly.
Quick note on the NASCAR news that got missed.
That's true.
Yesterday, report comes out.
Let me preface this real quick because there was a report that came out earlier this week that the Jacksonville Jaguars want to build a new stadium. There had been talk that their owner might be willing to move the team and maybe be one of the first teams to move to Europe.
Sid Khan, yeah.
But now it appears
somebody that's got the money to do it.
Sure. Now it appears that he might have struck a deal with the city of Jacksonville for a new stadium. Why are we talking about this on a racing show?
Or is it a new stadium?
Because of this.
The owners and personnel of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is per Adam Stern, released 16 hours ago,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is literally broke last night.
plan to meet with Daytona International Speedway officials in the coming weeks about the possibility of using the racetrack as a temporary home stadium for the NFL team to use for 2 years, not 1, but 2 years,
Sure.
as it renovates TIA Bank Field, per breakground.com.
There you go. We've all seen the infield area from pit road to the Tri-Oval at both Daytona and Talladega. There's no doubt you can put a football field on that grass.
Oh, easy.
There's no doubt you can
That would
do
be
that.
that would be a phenomenal area to put a football field. The ballpark area. Talladega, plenty big enough.
Oh, sure.
Daytona, more than plenty big enough.
Sure. Remind me what the grandstand capabilities of Daytona is now.
I think it's 120 on the front stretch.
Depending
Pending.
on, number one, if they strike a deal, and number two, who Jacksonville happened to be playing that weekend, that could set a new NFL attendance record for a game. The current NFL attendance record for a game is held by AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Dallas, Texas, at just over 105,000.
Yeah. I don't know about this one.
I'll give them credit for thinking outside the box.
It would be logical. It would be easier.
Oh, sure.
Say if the team was in Western North Carolina, they could just go right to, say, Bristol Motor Speedway. Because
Seating
you've got
capacity,
the
160.
stadium concept already.
Sure.
The logistical side of it would be having to putting stands on the northern, eastern, and southern peripheral of where the field would be. Because granted, if you're sitting in turn one and go, oh, touchdown Patriots, or sitting in turn four, oh, hey, Patriots kicked another field goal.
Yeah. Binoculars.
The logistical side of it.
Yeah.
It would take a lot, yes, but it would be, granted, it would be very neat to see.
Sure. And here's the other side of it. Scheduling wise, it could happen. Because you think about it, the Daytona 500 doesn't come in and certainly doesn't affect anything when it comes to playoffs. Let's assume, be a pretty good assumption, Jacksonville, that they made it to the AFC Championship game and they hosted it. They could still do that at Daytona because you don't have to worry about the Daytona 500 or any of the other races of speed weeks interfering with that. That's not a problem. 24 hours of Daytona might be a little bit of a different story. That might be the only thing. You get into the beginning of the year and you start talking about preseason because they don't kick off the regular season until September, but you do get preseason games in August, which is when NASCAR goes back there. You could certainly schedule a preseason game for Jacksonville to be away on the week of the Daytona race.
You
in August.
Easily could, yeah.
So scheduling-wise, it's not really that big of a problem. Again, save for the possibility of a playoff game in January. Might interfere with the 24 hours. Maybe.
Or they could go to maybe another stadium and give Jacksonville home field advantage.
Maybe. We'll see.
So
time will tell. Either way, it's a lot of fun to think about.
It is.
We got a few more things to get to. Plus, we got to get to talking about what this guy did last weekend out on the track. We'll start off with the National Hot Rod Association. They got a couple of things going on that we'll talk about when we come back. Then we'll get into IndyCar and Formula One. Formula E, other than Maserati winning their first ever race in their first year, really quiet this week. So we'll deal with the other three next on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we're going to continue on talking about that here in just a couple of moments. But first things first, I'm Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, and joined from our flagship station by Kim Stevens, who's on a different kind of track, so to speak. She's out at Combat Park in East Tioga, Alabama, not too far away from Talladega Superspeedway or Talladega Short Track. So if you get the chance, go on out there because they got a great thing going on out there today. Kim, exactly what's happening?
Okay, hello everybody. Today, inventory reduction auction. It just started about 20 minutes ago. I don't know if you can hear in the background. They're already doing their business. But to help benefit Wounded Warrior of Alabama. And if you guys don't know much about Wounded Warrior of Alabama, they are a nonprofit right here at Combat Park, East Tioga, 6755 Curry Station Road. And they do so much in the community to help our veterans that nobody even knows about. So if you guys are wanting to buy, if you've ever wanted to own a tank, now's your chance to own one. They have a tank that they are auctioning off. Humvees, ammo cans, rock walls, mobile escape room, so much stuff. You just got to be out here. Like, I can't even, there's so much, I can't even list it.
Good
so
stuff.
The Mountain Crew, we're going to be out here. We're going to be out here till 11, but this auction's going to be going on all day. And while you're out here, come ride the tanks here at Combat Park or take advantage of the paintball courses. They have 4 courses up here, and they also have a shooting range. So it's just a fun time today.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time out there, and like you said, it's going towards a great cause out there. And let's face it, if we could, it's kind of a dream of everybody, you and all 3 of us here on this show. If we could pull up into the parking lot on a work day in a tank, I don't think anybody would mess with us on that day.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So I'm hoping before I leave here today that I'm going to be getting inside the tank and driving. So
Love it.
Stay tuned for that.
All right. Sounds good. Kim, we'll talk to you here in just a little bit as we continue on here with CRN and talk a little bit about the National Hot Rod Association, where Cameron Foray, Stop Fuel competitor by trade, hasn't run this year, though. He lost his primary sponsor before the season began. But he's been hanging around the tracks and hanging around the shops, and that actually paid off this weekend as he, at Bristol, will team with Peyton Racing, going to compete in the Thunder Valley Nationals. This car going to have sponsorship, as you can see right there, from several different ones, including Fast Eddie Sportswear, Performance Data Systems, JBS Equipment, Ultimate Design, and many others. NHRA.com gave us the picture that you see right there on CRN Live.
And as of right now, after Q2, Mr. Foray he won.
Hello. While at Bristol Dragway, 8-time Top Fuel champion Tony Schumacher, his picture on CRN Live that you're about to see is courtesy of the fine folks at NHRA.com as well. He's set to be inducted into the track's Hall of Fame. 6 of his 86 career event wins came at Thunder Valley, and he comes back as the driver of the Skag Power equipment ride for JCM Racing, hoping to add to that number. 53-year-old Top Fuel veteran is the 20th inductee, joining his father, Don Schumacher. By the way, I think we've got our pictures mixed up, John. The one that you've got in reserve is actually Tony Schumacher. So we're going to switch that. There you go. That's the picture, courtesy of NHRA.com. 53-year-old Top Fuel veteran, the 20th inductee, becomes the first father-son inductee in there. Don was inducted back in 2014. He's only the second active driver, by the way, to go into that hall as well, following when John Force, who's, by the way, still active now in 2023, he was inducted back in 2016. So congratulations, no doubt there. To IndyCar Racing, where that picture that you had just seen is now going to make a reappearance, because Ed Carpenter Racing has decided to make a massive change, and they've made it in the middle part of the 2023 season. Effective immediately, they have parted ways with driver Connor Daly. Huh.
That's a head scratcher.
It is. While stating Daly won't be back, the team did not immediately name his replacement. They stated he was going to be, they would know that before the next race. Well, that's a good thing, because you actually want to, have the 20 car out there. Daly's driven for ECR since 2020. He had a sponsor that he brought with him, BitNile, which you can see on his fire suit right there, photo courtesy of NBCSports.com on CRN Live. But according to Ed Carpenter, this was a performance-based decision. At least that's what Ed Carpenter said when he made the announcement. Quote, "This is the most difficult decision I've made as a team owner, because I respect Connor and I know what he means to IndyCar and its fans, but our team has not been performing at the level we're capable of this year. And despite making technical changes and investments during the offseason, 2023 has been extremely challenging. I put a great deal of consideration into the current state of our team, and I realize it is my obligation to our employees, our partners, and our supporters to do whatever is necessary to elevate our team's competitiveness." Connor, after Detroit, is sitting 20th in the standings. His best finish of the year did come at the Indy 500, 8th.
Last I looked, too, Renus VK is not exactly knocking it out of the park either.
That's also true. So will a change happen there? Well, stick around.
I don't know.
Because right now we have to figure out who's going to sit in the car that Connor Daly once sat in. It's going to be the guy you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube. It only took him a couple of days, really about 24 hours, before Ed Carpenter Racing announced who was going to take on the number 20, and they pulled Ryan Hunter-Reay out of retirement to do it. And Ryan Hunter-Reay was kind of forced out of it. He was forced out of IndyCar in 2022 when Andretti Autosport said, thanks, but we're done. He wasn't able to get another ride. He did get an Indy 500 ride, but he wasn't able to get another full-time ride. He finished 11th in the Indy 500, just ran. But now he has already joined the team. He will drive at Road America next weekend. BitNile, as it turns out, is going to continue on as the sponsor despite the driver change and actually having signed with Daly, not with Ed Carpenter Racing. But BitNile Executive Chairman Todd Alt said about that, quote, "It's great for BitNile to be aligned with an Indy 500 winner and an Indy Series champion. I followed Ryan's career for years. I'm confident he will challenge the entire ECR team to perform at higher levels. I wish everyone luck at Road America." Hunter-Reay has 18 wins in the IndyCar Series to his credit. We mentioned the Indy 500 win that happened back in 2014. He's long been friends with Ed Carpenter, who actually tested Hunter-Reay after the 2021 season just in case that deal with Connor Daly didn't come together for 2022. As we know now, it did. So no disrespect to Connor Daly, but you certainly don't lose anything by bringing in Ryan Hunter-Reay.
If anything, you actually gain a little bit.
Yeah, you might have fallen upstairs.
Yeah, you actually gain a little bit. So you're about to find out really quick if it's a driver problem or a car problem.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And Ryan Hunter-Reay will tell you very quickly.
You're about to find out in a hurry.
Yep, you are. If you happen to watch the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix last weekend, you might have noted it was really, really bumpy. While the return to a downtown Detroit course where they moved off of Belle Isle was lauded, the drivers felt that the course, well, it wasn't quite ready for prime time. And it led to a meeting with the drivers and series officials. And coming out of that, Penske Corporation President Bud Denker termed the talks constructive and said that the course, which used part of the same course used by Formula One when they raced there from 1982 to 1988, was too short and much too rough. Too short.
You think?
Too short. We don't often hear that when it comes to street course races. Too short. Denker said this, quote, "We learned a lot of lessons. One thing I'll face up to right up front is the track. It's interesting because the drivers provided us information from their simulations, and he noted that based on the simulations before the race last weekend, that the race promoters had the road surface in turns 1, 8, and 9 ground out to be a bit," I use the terms or words "a bit" very carefully, "smoother but then added that, quote, the driver feedback was we needed new pavement in turn 3. The drivers are right, so we took out a 100 feet by 40-foot section of pavement from the 300 marker to the 425 marker. Noted that while it was ground down, they didn't have the chance to repave it because there wasn't enough time to let the new pavement cure in time for the track. Adding on to the whole, hey, it's a lot rougher than what we thought. But with the feedback in hand, he and the race promoters feel that they're going to have a much better racing surface planned for the 2024 race. But they realize that with potentially rough winters that Detroit experiences, that work is going to have to begin soon in order to make sure that it is done and cures, not just before next year's race, but before the winter storms come into play. My question is okay, there's a pretty good chance you're going to resurface this almost entire facility. What are you going to do to make it longer?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe race up the stairs at the Chevrolet City Center Park. I mean, it's.
Well, that could be entertaining.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
This will be something we'll keep an eye on. We'll let you know.
I'd like to be able to fly over downtown Detroit when they do, because you'll be able to say, oh, there's a racetrack right there.
Exactly.
I mean,
no racing for IndyCar this weekend, so the drivers have a chance to take a week off, do whatever they want, which, well, let's face it, for some, that's just more racing. 6-time champion Scott Dixon is over in France. He's driving in the 24 Hours Le Mans. For Dixon, actually his 6th time running in this race. The first time that he's, though, driving in what likely will be the overall winning category of LMP1. He will team with former IndyCar driver Sebastian Bourdais and sports car driver Ragnar van der Zijl, running for Chip Ganassi and Cadillac Racing in the number 3 V-Series hybrid prototype. Simon Pagenaud, former Indy 500 winner himself, going to compete in his 5th Le Mans race. He's running for the first time in the LMP2 class as co-driver of the number 47 Cool Racing Oreca Gibson prototype, which has more entries than any other division, 24 cars in that division in all. Team Penske's part of that race. Penske Porsche Motorsport, we talked about them a little bit earlier on as well. All of this will change a little bit next year because instead of the divisions that we know now, LMP1 and LMP2, technically the LMP2 division will go away. It'll be replaced by something called the Hypercar division. That'll include entries from Formula One team Alpine, along with BMW, who's long been involved in sports cars, along with Lamborghini. Several others are interested, if not already committed to run. LMP2 cars, as we know them now, will still run at some select events, but they won't run the full season. There are 15 slots for next year's 24 Hours Le Mans for those cars that we currently call LMP2 that will still be running in the division next year. But again, we ain't calling it LMP2 no more. We're calling it Hypercar. So you're eliminating the division, but you're going to allow them to run the cars probably only for about another year or two until you can actually build the new car that actually fits more the Hypercar prototype.
right. And they're back under safety car.
How many laps have they gotten in?
They're down to 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 31 seconds. So they've been racing 34 minutes maybe.
And at least 2 yellow flags already?
Yeah.
Okay. To Formula One, where we've noted for the first time since 2021, Mercedes, both of their drivers claiming podium finishes. That happened after a big change to the car, including bringing back side pods for the Monaco race. Christian Horner of Red Bull noted that the increased performance said that he expects they'll be, once again, Red Bull's biggest threat for wins and championship points for the rest of the year. But the thing about it is he didn't appear to be all concerned about it because even though Hamilton and Russell split the Red Bulls of winner Max Verstappen and 4th place Sergio Perez, he noted with a fairly wry smile, quote, they were still 24 seconds behind because Max Verstappen is on it. He then added, quote, they made a good step. I think that we've got some stuff in the pipeline. They've had a big upgrade. We've got some bits coming in later in the season. But look, for sure, it's a big step. They're a quality team. And for sure, they're going to be putting us under the pressure for the second half of the year. How much pressure? I mean, again, this is like the presidential elections. And we're in the state of Alabama. Generally, by no more than 5 minutes after the polls close in the state of Alabama, which is 7 p.m. Central Time, all the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, all the major news cable channels, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and all the other ones that are out there, by 7:05 Central Time, they're going, by the way, we call Alabama for the Republican candidate. We've looked at the points. They're 135 up on Mercedes. It's over.
you're talking about how much pressure they're going to be under. It's about how much pressure I'm putting on the straw right here. If you're watching YouTube Live, to pull fluid out of this cup to
Not much.
get in my throat.
Yeah. Basically, the big pressure's for Sergio Perez. It's not for Red Bull as a whole. Sorry, I'm not seeing it. Alfa Romeo Sauber is trying to take a big swing at things, trying to improve their fortunes and their slow start to the 2023 season. We talked about it. They're tied with Haas F1, only ahead of two other teams right now when it comes to things going on. And it's not pretty over there at Alfa Romeo. So what did they do? Well, they replaced a guy by the name of John Moncho with the guy that you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube, James Key. He's official first day in that role. However, not going to be in September 1st, but it will be in time to help them for the stretch run of the season because that will be basically after the August break. Key leaves a similar role at McLaren from earlier on this year. Hiring him, Alfa Romeo stated, was to show their incoming 2026 partner Audi that they intend to become an upper echelon operation. Do yourselves a favor. Try and become a mid-level operation first. Key came into Formula One with the defunct Jordan team way back in the early 2000s. He was the youngest technical director in the series back then at the age of 33. That was 2005. And then he moved on to two other teams that are now gone, Midland and Spiker. Remember them, kids? No, you probably don't. Then he joined Force India. You remember Sahara Force India, which became Sahara? And now they're gone under another name? Yeah, he was with them for a while. Then Sauber, then Toro Rosso, and then McLaren before now back at Sauber, thanks to Formula1.com for the picture of Key that you saw on CRN Live on YouTube. How big of a change is this going to make? The dude's not joining until later on in the year. So officially his first day is September the 1st. How much can he help them from September the 1st until mid-November when their season comes to an end?
Very little.
But again, they're thinking long-term. And I'll give them credit for that.
Right.
Last week on the show, we talked about how the guy who you're about to see on CRN Live, Haas F1 team principal Gunther Steiner, called out and said that Formula One needs full-time race stewards in the sport. Even went so far as to say, quote, F1 is one of the biggest sports in the world. We still have laymen deciding on the fate of people that invest millions of dollars in their careers. Well, that didn't sit well with the FIA, so they called Steiner into their truck. They had a little bit of a chat in Spain. The picture, by the way, that you saw of Steiner on CRN Live was courtesy of PlanetF1.com. The result of the chat, no penalty. An FIA statement to the media afterwards said, in part, that Steiner's language was tantamount to misconduct and was perceived to cause offense, and in our view, reasonably did cause offense, not only to the stewards in Monaco, but to other FIA personnel and many motorsport volunteers, unquote. Steiner did offer an official apology for causing any offense, but added this, quote, if, quote, he, so he's using this in almost third person, if he had meant to insult or offend anyone, he would have used much different words. The stewards didn't dispute that. I wouldn't dispute it either. If you've watched 5 seasons of Netflix Formula One Drive to Survive, you know that Gunther Steiner is not afraid to speak his mind. He's no shrinking violet. So here becomes the question. Who's right and who's wrong in this specific situation? And I'm not talking about the chat, and I'm not talking about the words. I'm talking about him calling on F1 needing full-time race stewards so that you don't go, in this case, to 22 different races and have 22 different race stewards calling the action.
He's not wrong. I mean, needs consistency for the stewards calling every race, not going, oh, John's going to be the chief steward of COTA. Steve's going to be the chief steward of Canada. Matt's going to be the chief steward at Baku. There's 3 different opinions on 3 different tracks for the same series. You need one opinion, one track, one opinion, one series, all tracks.
Yep. Question is, will they actually do anything about it?
Nope.
Probably not. Wildfires in Canada causing big problems even down into the United States. Could it cause a problem for next weekend's Canadian Grand Prix? We'll talk about it and talk about Matt Nicholson and his racing exploits next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
We'll get that fixed. That'd be an operator error on my part. Welcome back into the show. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, joined now by our flagship station coworker, Kim Stevens, who's out at Combat Park in East Aboga, Alabama, because they've got a big auction going on and a chance for you to maybe drive a tank as well. So what exactly are you working on right now, Kim?
Hey, I am actually sitting here with Philip right now. He is one of the main guys out here at Combat Park and the Mud Bog, and he's going to tell you everything that's going on out here with this auction today.
Guys, if you need to, just, hey, if you're looking for a place to be, this is where you want to be. We got some good trucks. Just a little bit of everything, four-wheelers, side-by-side, jet skis. We got Argos, campers, just anything you want, escape rooms, couches, refrigerators, whatever you want. Y'all come on out, check us out. I'm sure you'll be happy. All proceeds go to our vets. We appreciate y'all support.
Yes. When is the next Mud Bog?
Next Mud Bog is July 1st.
Woohoo!
July 1st. Y'all come on out.
I'm going to take the mountain truck out there for that.
Do that. Come on out.
Yes. Yeah, guys, we got this auction underway. It's been going for about 45 minutes now. Stuff is moving, so you might want to hurry up and get out here.
I got a question, Kim, and I don't know whether you know or whether you can find it out, but see if you can find out how much do they think that tank is going to go for at auction.
How much y'all think the tank's going to go for?
We're hoping we're getting about 50 to 60,000.
Okay.
Nice.
That's what we want.
And it go to a great
That's our
cause.
goal.
It'll absolutely go to a great cause. All right. Well, the best of luck out there. Hope everything goes well. You're going to be out there for another hour, Kim?
Yes, I'm going to be out here on air till 11, but I'm just going to hang around out here for a good part of the day. And
I'll be here all day.
There you go.
I'm going to get myself in the tank. And, hey, guys, anybody that comes up today right during this auction, you get 25% off of a tank drive.
Nice. Can't beat that with a stick.
Yes, all you got to do, just say you heard it on the mountain.
All right. Very cool. Kim, have a great time out there, and we'll talk to you again next hour. Let's see here. Wildfires in Canada have been making all kinds of news this week. The massive fires creating a major smoke screen that's made its way really all the way down along the eastern seaboard of the United States. I mean, if you've seen pictures of New York City this week, it's ridiculous. It's worse than usual. It's causing all sports to either postpone or move games and competitions. Next weekend is the Canadian Grand Prix in Formula One. What's going to happen with F1 there? Well, right now, F1 officials, they say they're looking at the situation, state they're going to continue on as planned, but they're going to keep monitoring it. The fires are not really technically all that close to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, about 800 kilometers or 500 miles away from the track. The wind direction right now is keeping pretty much the smoke out of the Montreal area. Again, for the most part, the air as of yesterday where when we air live in Montreal, it was listed as good. And from what we understand, winds are going to start shifting over the course of this week, and it should start to alleviate some of the smoke that we're seeing down along the eastern seabird there.
Right.
But, we ought to really, build a big fan or something like that and just blow all the smoke back at Canada.
Yeah.
We can't build a wall. What do you think we're going to build a fan? Let's see what else is going on. How about some tire talk? Pirelli hosted a tire test for some of the compounds that they're proposing to bring forth in 2024. This they did earlier on this week out in Spain. Ferrari and Mercedes were the teams chosen. They gave Mick Schumacher, ex-Haas F1 driver, a chance to turn some laps for his new team, Mercedes. He and George Russell, along with Ferrari pilots Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, they turned over 600 laps combined in Spain after the Grand Prix. That's what the tires look like this year. That's pretty much what they'll look like next year. But again, different compounds. That picture right there, courtesy of Formula1.com. Pirelli's head of motorsport, Mario Isola, said, quote, these were two very important days of testing, Monday and Tuesday. We gathered plenty of useful information to come up with the best possible choices for next year in terms of construction. There's still a few details to fine-tune, while during this test we began to identify a solid development base for the compounds, especially the middle of the range. Let's kind of go over that, because if you're looking, again, at CRN Live on YouTube, you can see the different colors. You got red and yellow and white and green and blue. Blue is wet. That's wet weather tires. But the other three, green technically are intermediate, and then you've got the red, yellow, and the white. And these are all soft, medium, and hard compounds for that week. But there are two other ones that are very hard and very soft. And depending on the track and how good of situation it is, they'll bring 3 choices for that particular week. Color them red, yellow, white. So you can choose along that particular lineup. So that's what they're talking about right there. Meanwhile, Pirelli notes that they might have a challenge coming to becoming or remaining as the official tire provider of Formula One. The FIA has opened up the tender process for companies who might be interested in taking on the official tire provider role from 2025 through 2027 with an option for 2028. One of the companies that we know of is Bridgestone, parent company of IndyCar's official tire provider, Firestone. They're said to be highly interested in taking on that role. You can see the old Bridgestone Potenza tire there on CRN Live, courtesy of autoracing.com. The last time the FIA opened up the process, Pirelli got challenged by Oncook. They missed out on Formula One, but stayed with the idea of it and became Formula E's official tire provider. Tire tender was initially set to expire after this year, but because of, well, stupid COVID, it got extended a year. Should Bridgestone be approved, it would actually mark a return to Formula One for the company. They provided tires to Formula One from 1997 through 2007. Those years, along with Michelin, and from 08, 09, and 2010, they were by themselves before Pirelli took over. Bridgestone and Pirelli are the only 2 known applicants at this point in time. There might be others that we haven't heard of. We'll have to wait and see. The thoughts of heading back to Africa for a Formula One race appear to be at least shelved, if not, well, put in a box and locked away, certainly for 2024. The series desires to head back to Africa, which last hosted the series back in 1993. They've been working with South Africa's Kyalami course to claim a place on the schedule. But when officials looked at the financial plans from the Kyalami race course and the promoters, Formula One felt like things might actually collapse before the race could even happen. There have also been accusations that the South African government, still friendly with the Russian government, may also be supplying arms and or ammunition to Russia in their war against Ukraine. And that, of course, is straining relations with several countries that are already on the Formula One calendar, not the least of which is the United States of America. There's some thought that with the cancellation of the Chinese and then the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix events, a substitute race might actually take place this year at Kyalami, but race promoters couldn't put things together quickly enough. I mean, heck, if they couldn't get it together for 2024, what makes you think they could get things together quickly enough for a 2023 race?
Amen to that.
So all of that allowed the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps to continue on the calendar on a 1-year extension. This is something kind of an oddity for Liberty Media. They seem to prefer multi-year deals to remain at particular courses, but it's the same oddity that might actually allow Spa to return to the Formula One schedule for 2024 at least. Should be noted that Spa was sold out for 2022 as they continue to improve the facilities. That was something that the FIA and Liberty Media both suggested that the course do, improve the facilities. They sold out for 2022. They're sold out again for 2023. All 110,000 grandstand seats are sold. The only things left is some deal where they hoist you up on a crane and you have dinner while you watch the race from a crane. Those are the only tickets that are left. So here comes the question. Isn't there a better course somewhere out there that's not selling out on a regular basis that you might actually consider taking off the schedule instead of one that's selling out for the last 2 years and doing everything that you're asking them to do in order to remain on the schedule?
I don't know. There's ones somewhere. It's just not ones coming to mind right off the bat. So I mean, why would you not keep Belgium on the circuit?
People are going.
It's crazy.
Anyway,
Absolutely crazy.
We'll find out. We'll keep you updated. The deadline for the letters of interest to the FIA about getting into Formula One team ownership has now finally and officially passed. It has not been extended, even on a soft cap. All applications have been sent to the FIA for consideration. The FIA has not and likely will not state exactly how many letters they got, but state that they can accept or reject any letter that they got. And they have the power to add not just one, but multiple teams as they see fit. There's no deadline for an announcement on the FIA regarding those letters. But again, you got to remember that new engine package comes in 2026. And most of the teams, or at least those who seem to be interested in getting teams, are talking about entering in 2026. So they're going to want to do that fairly soon to give them the time to build the infrastructure they need to make it work.
Yep.
And one more note here before we turn it over to Matt to talk about last weekend. For gamers, F1 Manager 2023. If you're a gamer, it's available for pre-order now. It officially hits shelves and gaming systems the last day of July. This edition will bring in expanded simulations for Formula 3 and Formula 2, so you can work your way up, and the opportunity for the player to become the team's sporting director. Hey, you could become your own Gunther Steiner. And become you also get a new race replay mode. Not exactly sure what that means. I mean, is it just, hey, I want to watch it again, or can you, do it over? Mulligan. Either way, that mode allows the player to take on the current 2023 race schedule, drivers currently racing this year, but also allows the gamers to begin racing action in the middle of a race at a pivotal moment and see how they do. Okay, that's what race replay mode is. That's right. It puts you in a scenario and sees if you can get out of it. Those who pre-order the game going to get 3 extra race moments, including one at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Ordering the deluxe edition, it'll cost you more, but it gets the gamer a chance to play 4 days earlier than non-deluxe versions and 4 more race moments on top of that. As noted, the game will be available for the buyers on July 31st. You can get it for Sony PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XJS. Is that a portable system?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And for PC via Stream and the Epic Games Store. I have long thought about getting a Formula One game. I think it would be kind of cool to play the video game, but at this point in time, I ain't got a PlayStation 4 or 5, and I ain't got the money to go get one, so it'll wait. But it does seem pretty cool.
It is.
I will say that. Have you played an F1 game?
It's been a while, but I have.
Okay. Very cool. Well, instead of playing, you actually had the chance to go racing last weekend. We talked about it at the very end of last weekend's show. It was a local track called Buckshot Speedway in nearby Clanton, Alabama. Look on a map about midway between Birmingham and Montgomery along I-65. You'll see where Clanton is.
Yep.
Nice area down there. You got a chance to drive a car that, well, you'd never really raced this class before, have you?
Never really raced the class, never really seen the racetrack. So we just went in it with the mentality of YOLO.
Sure. Knock yourself out.
Got down there was a full field of 24. So yeah, everybody started the race, got in the show, was able to get some decent laps turned in until a few, let's just say gremlins showed up out of nowhere. The way it was it was very, very, very fun to get back behind the wheel of the car.
Oh, I bet.
Just even latching a 5-point harness and hitting a start switch was just enough in itself for me, especially how the last 2 weeks it went for our personal life. But it was a good escape. It was good to get back on the racetrack and run with people that I've raced with in the past quite a few times, and had some really good races with as well. I was taken back, not in a negative way, but taken back of how narrow this racetrack is, because typically before bigger series races in the Southern Sportsman Modified Series races, when specifically, you'll see a 4-wide salute.
Mm-hmm.
This track is so narrow, we can only do 3 wide. So I'm thinking, here we go. Well, just shifted into the mentality, never could, through qualifying in the heat race, never could get the bugs worked out of what at the time, that's the key phrase there.
Sure.
At the time, thought it was a carburetor problem. And when the carburetor problem developed, everything was acting just like that. One or possibly more of the plugs may have been gas foul. So I did everything I knew to do to try to get the motor to clear up. Never would. Only time it kept getting worse, but the only time it was really worse was in the corners. And if you can't drive a car through the corners, you're basically a rolling roadblock.
That's true.
So after, I think it was about like 10 or 11, I worked my way up to 17th. And after about 10th or 11th lap, it got worse and got worse and got worse. So I made the decision to pull it off. I was like, I'm not taking a chance. Pulled off just to save the car. I didn't want to damage the car, tear the guy's engine up just from something. Even though he had the mentality, I don't care, just go finish. It's fine. Well, it ended up revealing Thursday, that the carburetor was not the problem.
That one that you're going to see right there on CRN Live on YouTube.
That's the problem that you see right there. And anybody that knows about engines and ignition systems know that that little piece that's broke off on the distributor right there, that ain't supposed to happen.
No, it's not.
It was a heat-related stress crack that caused the break. causing the car to misfire. So he's got the problem fixed and everything's situated. So hopefully in a couple weeks, give or take a little bit,
Try it again.
I'm going to go take another shot at it, run it in a weekly show, and really see what it's got.
Very cool.
But thanks again to Dwayne Robinson for giving me that shot to drive the car.
Absolutely.
I had an absolute ball, even though it didn't get the result we wanted. Still had fun.
There you go. Well, producer John and I are off to the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. We're going to go visit some friends up there, but don't worry, we'll be back next week. Do it again right here on CRN Live. Once again, don't worry. Show will go on, as they say. So for producer John Myers, for Matt Nicholson, for myself, Steve West, enjoy the racing this weekend, whether it's the 24 Hours Le Mans, whether it's Sonoma, or whether it's the Thunder Valley Nationals, or whatever local racing that you've got on your mind. Enjoy it. Have a great time. We'll talk about it all next week right here as we get into another edition of the Championship Racing Network. Y'all have a great weekend.
See ya.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.